Welcome to a new episode of the VSP podcast. Today, I'm going to be interviewing my good friend, Connor Carroll, who works player development in the Colorado Rockies. He's also going to be speaker at our Baseball Performance Summit, which we're going to be hosting here Saturday, November 22nd. The link to that is in the bio. We are trying to get as many parents, coaches, kids around the Long Island area to come and see our great panel of speakers. It's going to be a great event. We're excited. Let's jump into our podcast. Connor, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so obviously a few weeks ago we had Tyler on, and although your stories may be a little similar since you guys are twins, but you guys kind of ended up in different spots. So just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you got into the position you're at.
Yeah, so the two of us, obviously twins, fraternal, look very much the same for the podcast viewers.
Wait, you're fraternal twins?
We are fraternal.
I did not know that.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
So we both went to Farmingdale, studied sport management, and then we both started our baseball career at Inside Edge. So the whole goal of that was to spend a year out there charting major league games, analyzing games, and kind of building something on the resume so we can go to the winter meetings and take that stepping stone into professional baseball. For Tyler, he ended up with the Rangers. After interviewing with a bunch of teams, for me, my path started with the Tampa Bay Rays. So went to Port Charlotte, was there for all of spring training, spent the year with the team doing minor league video, right? So it's setting up cameras, charting games, writing reports. And that was my first foray into it. After 1 year, we both ended up going to Australia to help out with the Australian Baseball League.
That, yeah.
So
is it like the pickoff moves or something like that?
Yeah, so we did some stuff there. So Tyler's pitching coach in Down East that year, the affiliate he was with the Rangers, had an opportunity. He had managed in Adelaide in the Australian Baseball League before, and they were looking to bring over video, technology, advanced scouting, like pretty much what we were doing. So unique opportunity. We took advantage of that, and we went to Adelaide. The team proceeded to go, I think, 4-36. They were the worst team in the ABL, but when you look a couple years after that, they ended up winning the Claxton Shield back-to-back years. They're one of the more successful ABL teams. Not taking credit for that. I don't think we had much to do with it, but it was the start. You could see where an organization starts to invest. So it was good for us, right? It was a good conversation starter. During our time over there, I was in the process of going back to Tampa Bay. I had interviewed for different positions, but there was an opportunity with the Phillies that presented itself. Similar role, minor league video, go to Lakewood, New Jersey, low A affiliate, but with the Phillies at the time, they had never really done it before. They had it, but it was only home games. They were traveling for the first time. They were doing advanced work at the affiliate for the first time. So for me, it was a better opportunity. So went to Philly, did that role for 2 years at the affiliate at Lakewood and then Double A in Reading. After the year, I was promoted to an assistant minor league video coordinator, which is more of an oversight over the whole department. And it was more domestic at that time, based in Florida at the complex, and then kind of overseeing how we do things and assisting with various different projects, right? So did a similar role for a few years there. Assistant coordinator promoted into video coordinator, which ultimately ended up being promoted into manager of minor league video and technology. So what does that all mean? Essentially, the department grew, there was more investment, and as the department grew, I ended up being elevated. Similar role, but just overseeing AAA through the DR in terms of all of our technology inventory. So we had installed Edgertronics in the stadium at every affiliate. We had invested in Hawkeye, so I was overseeing that. We did that AAA through the DR, assisted with MLB Hawkeye as we installed that, helped out. In various different ways and trying to be additive to the program to enhance player development. As the years went by, it was great, have a lot of great mentors there, built my career with Philly. But the way the professional sports works, there's always going to be change. And ultimately that brought me to the Colorado Rockies, who I'm with today. And for the last 2 years, I went over there and it was like, I went back in time, right? 2018 with the Phillies, they hadn't traveled before, first time that they were doing they were traveling, they were using a lot of this new technology. Well, I go to the Rockies, it's their first year traveling, their first year using a lot of this technology. So for me, it was an opportunity to take my experience with Philly and kind of bring it to Colorado and help them kind of grow and hopefully accelerate the learning curve as they had fallen a little bit behind. So last 2 years I was there, spent 2 years ago in Spokane, we won the championship in the Northwest League, and then spent this last year in Albuquerque. And by the end of the year, I was assisting with the big league team as well. We had a tough season, but was helping with our advanced scouting and our game planning.
Okay.
And that's where we are today.
Oh, nice. All right. So you have this player, right? We'll call him Charlie. So we have Charlie here.
All right.
He comes into your organization. What are you actually doing? Like, how are you trying to, obviously player development, how you develop that player? Like, give me a couple of maybe, scenarios or processes you guys use.
Yeah, so let's say you acquire a player through the draft, or he's an international free agent. You sign him when he's 16 years old. He goes to the academy. Regardless of who it is, pitcher, hitter, domestic, international, that player's coming in, and we're going to let them get acclimated to just playing baseball every day. It's a pro now. You're getting paid to do this. It's day in and day out. And then as their first season kind of progresses, there's going to be different development plans that are generated, right?
Okay.
First, you roll out the ball, you let them play. But whether it be from let's say it's a hitter, right? Let's say Charlie's a hitter. What is his defensive position right now? What do we project him to be in the big leagues when he's a big leaguer? Well, if he's a shortstop now, but we think he's going to be a third baseman, all right, well, that might change the development plan a little bit. Maybe we want to get reps at short, we want to get reps at third. From a hitting standpoint, is he a power hitter? Is he a contact hitter? That's going to change our drill work, right? Like, what are his strengths? Does he make good swing decisions? Does he have good bat to ball skills? Does he have good bat speed? And all of that is going to be layered into the coordinator level and the player development front office, our farm director, assistant farm director, as we create a plan for, as this guy goes from level to level, year to year, how can we make him the best version of himself so when he's a big leaguer, he's going to have success. So it's going to be all of your minor league coordinators. The way player development works, you're going to have a catching coordinator that oversees all the catchers, infield coordinator, outfield coordinator, et cetera. Same on the pitching and the hitting side. You have all of these plans that need to come together, and that's not even getting into the support groups such as strength and conditioning, such as nutrition, such as mental health, right? So everybody's going to create their own plan for this player, and they're really their own individual project. So we have 165 players in the player development side. That's 165 projects year in and year out that you're monitoring, and you have all these different elements that come together to try to make them the big leaguer that you think they can be.
So now, how much collaboration is there, right? So you mentioned there's a lot of different facets of this, right? From strength and conditioning, mental health, nutrition, and then obviously, I assume the hitting coach and whatever their on-field coach. Does everybody communicate? Like, how does that work?
Well, so that's the key, right? And I think that's where a lot of player development can fail, is when the communication either breaks down and there might be mixed messages, or it's just in general, the lack of communication, and something is going on with a player that somebody's not aware of, or they think something's happening and in reality it's not. So there's going to be consistent meetings. I know with Philly, there was a lot more affiliate level meetings where every week or 2 weeks, the whole staff would get together and there would be notes from the coordinating staff that would trickle down. With Colorado, it's a little different. Our rovers would come in a few times a year, and it was more of a monthly player plan that we would bring the player in. We would have our affiliate staff, some analysis, and some trickle down information from the coordinators. And then it's more just the tracking of their KPIs, their key performance indicators and whatnot. And maybe mid-season, end of the year, you might completely revamp the plan, because you don't want to be over-aggressive. You don't want to be too reactive. You set your plan, but you do want to monitor it, because maybe you're wrong, or maybe he's good at a weakness is now a strength, right? So now that changes how we're going to progress the rest of the year.
Okay. Side note or side question.
Yeah.
You get a guy, I think, on the Yankees, Cruz. Didn't he not start off as a pitcher, right? I forgot who they're relieving.
Yeah, so
like, how do you know, like, all right, I'm going to just try this guy out as a pitcher?
So usually they might have an amateur background where they're a pitcher.
Okay, all right.
Or generally you might see it with a, let's say it's a catcher or third baseman or an outfielder that has a really strong arm, right?
Okay.
And they get a little bit of a spin allergy, they can't hit, but you think there might be some value. So you bring them down to the complex, they throw off the track man.
I always wonder,
That's
because I see it, I'm like, well, how does this guy all of a sudden just become a major league pitcher?
Look at Kenley Jansen, right? He's had a career as one of the better closers in the game over the last 15 years. He started out as a catcher. Yeah. He was even in the World Baseball Classic playing for the Netherlands as a catcher.
That's crazy. But it just shows you how talented these guys are. I mean, they're just operating at a totally different level. Now, personal question. What makes you valuable to the Colorado Rockies? Like, what about you? Because I'm assuming anybody can kind of like look at a video and dissect or whatever, but like, what do you do? Maybe it's a little bit different.
Yeah, well, I think one of my strengths is just being able to work with every level of baseball operations. In my time with the Phillies, I got exposure to the amateur side through the COVID year in particular, where I was assisting there. We're training our amateur scouts on the technology, so I've worked with that side. Player development, obviously, I've worked in since 17, so I'm very familiar with different coaches, With Philly, again, we had a lot of turnover my first few years.
Okay.
So we had a lot of older school coaches, guys with a lot of experience, that turned into hiring to replace them with more Driveline and Cressy, some new age thinkers. So I saw their perspective. So for me, being able to weld all that experience and kind of be a sponge around that group has helped me when I came to Colorado and take those experiences. I'm pretty good communicating with the players, pretty good communicating with the staff, and I think I build up a trust, whether it be through my work ethic, my knowledge, and they value that. So that's presented me an opportunity where I can use my voice to bring forward different ideas, and there's a comfort there where I can actually implement them. And I saw it the last year. 2 years ago, especially in Spokane, when we won the championship and doing all the game plans and the prep, that carried over into this year, where towards the end of the year I was helping out with some advanced scouting and game planning at the big league level.
Okay, very cool. Now, before I jump into, maybe like the younger athlete population, how do you see your job, or like player development, maybe it's even analytics, which obviously includes that, changing? Like, in 5-10 years from now, is it going to look crazy different, or are we just going to keep kind of building what we're already doing?
It's always going to be building, right? It's the age of information. You have more than ever. When Hawkeye came into the game a few years ago, now all this biomechanical data is there, right? So I think the biggest challenge with today's athlete, and in terms of player development, with creating these development plans, is they want everything, right? They come up, Instagram, TikTok, all social media. You might see a kid watching something on Pitching Ninja, and now he wants to try this grip, and it might not be the best thing for him. It might not complement his repertoire, but he's going to go into the bullpen that day and he's going to try it, see what it looks like. So I think you're competing with that from the player development side. And in the age of information, again, there's just so much that I don't think everybody is fully educated on it. So it's like, we try to make these players the best version of themselves, but they see, okay, Tariq Skubal is throwing this changeup grip, I want to try this. It's like, well, your changeup's pretty good to begin with. Why are we changing it? So I think competing against numbers and competing against the iPad, you'll see in a bullpen, or you'll see when a guy takes BP, they're looking over their shoulder right away. What was the exit velo there? What was the spin rate there? And I think it's just, it's a detriment to development in a lot of ways. The tool that itself is incredibly valuable. Everything that is tracked nowadays can be implemented. You look at different organizations that are picking towards the end of the draft, or they have these low money international guys that continue to boom year after year. The reason isn't because they're getting the best talent necessarily. It's because they have development processes. They know how to filter that information to the player, and they actually educate their players on who they are and what is important to them. Because I can give you a CSV full of all these numbers and say, here you go. Well, what are you going to do with it?
Exactly.
Like, what makes this valuable to me, and what's valuable to me might not be the same to you. Like, we're all our own projects. So it's going to continue to build. There's going to be more information as the years come, but the teams and the players that are successful with this are the ones that are able to filter it and actually make it actionable to how does this help me? What is beneficial to me here? And I think that's the difficulty now, where 20 years ago it was more radar gun based and feel based, and now real versus feel still exists. But now we can verify it with a number, and just knowing what I'm tracking and not to overreact to certain things is important.
You keep making me ask questions because now I have another one. So you go through all these numbers, all these analytics. Now you brought up that there's an approach or a process with the mental side of the game. I don't think any person who's ever played sport can argue with me that when you're anxious and when you're like almost like frozen, you're not going to perform at your best. So how do you guys measure that, and then how do you approach it? Well,
I think that's a human element, right? So in the age of facilities and 24/7, 365 workouts, right? We can compete in a lab, we can compete in a gym, right? Time and time again. But once you roll out the ball and you're between the lines, it's a different animal. Like, I could throw a bullpen and hit my spot every single time with, hitting my metrics, and everything feels good. But then when I get out on the mound, again, there's no iPad standing behind me. I don't know if this is good or bad. So being reliant on that, I think, adds to that anxiety where you just need to get into compete mode. And everybody's going to be different, right? So that's where your mental skills coaches might help. They might have methods for you that when you're out there and you talk through, like, okay, maybe this works for you to calm you down. Like, I think there's an individual aspect to that, but I do think that this data overload can add to the anxiety in a sense where instead of going up there and just being reactive, you're thinking, and to your point, like, that's when the performance is going to fall.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because I think it's so many times where, I'll relate to golf because I think everybody who can say this. You play any golf?
No, I don't get out there very much.
One day we'll get you out there. But if you are about to hit the ball and you take your practice swings, every single person I've ever played with has these beautiful practice swings that the mechanics look pretty good, and then as soon as they go over the ball, it's like they forgot how to play golf. And you see it all the time. And then obviously in baseball in particular, just because of it's a team, but it's an individual sport. It gets exploited, and you see it right there. Or like, for example, I forgot, it was a full count, Aaron Judge is up, I think it was bases loaded, 2 outs, and he barely this year, and you probably know the numbers more than me, but barely swung like crazy out of the strike zone, right? Like he was much better this year at staying with it himself. And crazy, I don't know if it was a slider or whatever it was, way out of the strike zone, he swings and misses. And he's, kicking himself. I see it, how pissed he was because he never did that. But the anxiety at that point made him do something that he wasn't typically, doing throughout the year. And that's what I always get, like, how do you get somebody to, like, just relax? You know what I mean? Like, that's the hardest part, I think.
Yeah, and I think over the course of the year, you need to kind of stay in the middle, right? Because you're going to have those highs, you're going to have those lows. And in professional baseball especially, there's a much bigger sample size. So we know who you are. We know the numbers that you're going to get to. And I think, these teams, we might boil it down on the hitting side. Maybe it's more we're focused on your swing decisions, your bat-to-ball ability, and your impact, right? Yeah. And usually that's correlated. Your potential impact is correlated with your bat speed, right? Yeah. So we know what your bat speed is. We know what your skill set is at the plate. How often do you chase? Where do you chase? What pitches do you chase? Yep. And then bat-to-ball skills can be a detriment too. I've seen guys that can get the bat on the ball on anything. They can hit anything outside the zone, and they're swinging at that in a 2-0 count or a 1-0 count where they might be able to roll it over, flare it out to right when that's an action pitch, right? Like we want to drive that in the gap. So it's more like, okay, your swing decision isn't necessarily the best there, but your bat-to-ball skill is kind of overwhelming it. So it's trying to get guys, again, know the best version of themselves and put them in a position to have success. So that anxiety and kind of riding the highs and the lows, it's going to happen throughout the year. So knowing where your base is and trying to work back to that first before you can elevate is important.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, so now let's transition to our youngsters. So here at VSP, we work with mostly middle school, high school kids. We have a lot of college kids as well, but mostly middle school and high school. And, their development, I think, is really, really important. I mean, at this time, coaches have an opportunity to mold these individuals into, strong, resilient, athletic, capable athletes at whatever level. Maybe it's just, staying with, their town team or trying to play D1, right, and all in between. How could the player development at these ages, these 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, improve, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I think part of it is having a plan, right? And everybody, if you're trying to get involved now, like coming to a facility like this to work out, I think is a good start, right? Because the physical aspect, trying to get stronger, trying to get a process. I know for me, and I wasn't very good as an athlete, but getting in the gym for football workouts helped me in baseball. So, kind of being flexible with how many sports you can play, I also think helps. I know specialization is a big thing now, but I would kind of hold off on that, would be my recommendation, until later on, until you're certain, but that's another discussion. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think like utilizing these technology tools that are available. So let's say you're in the gym and you have a plan here. Well, also when you're in your baseball facility and you're working out and you're hitting, what is your drill work? Is it relevant to your performance right now? Are you just going through the motions? Are you finding consistency? Because when you're training day in and day out, you need to find what works for you and what translates to the game. When it comes to implementing technology, if they're in a facility that has that, well, what do these numbers mean? Like if I'm working with a trainer that has a TrackMan here and they're just going to feed me my velo and my spin rate without context to it, it's just, again, you're handing somebody a CSV without context. Well, what does this mean? Okay, my fastball has 20 inches of carry on it. Well, maybe now in my bullpen, I'm going to try to get it at the top of the zone. So now there's intent behind everything that you're doing.
Correct.
So for me, for the youth side of things, whether you have technology, you don't, it's just executing in the game and taking the game into your practice. I think so much now today in the showcase culture, we're trying to just make our practice great, right? It's what numbers can we put up in terms when we're not between the lines. It's like, well, it's fake performance. Yes, it showcases your tools, but it doesn't translate when the game actually matters. And we see it on the player development side in professional sports now. the guys don't know how to play the game as much. You're educating on the game. Yes, the talent level, the skills, they're all there, and some of them are extremely impressive, but you see guys fly through the system and they'll get to the big league level and it's still, there's these minor errors, right? And there's going to be mental errors, that's just the game, but there's stuff that's avoidable. And for me, the biggest importance is don't forget about the game. Like, the game matters. When you're going through your training stuff, make it tailored towards the game. Don't be chasing a number. Don't be chasing, like, maybe if you're throwing a 20-pitch bullpen, let's try to throw 15 strikes. Try to throw 15 in the zone. Don't try to hit your max velo. The velo is going to be there. Like, your extra effort there is probably going to take you out of the zone.
So true. Well, you see it on Instagram. Like, that's all everybody wants to see, right? Is like crazy spin rate, crazy velos, or whatever it is. And, and then these 12, 13-year-old kids are watching that, watching, these videos. And I'm not saying any specific account does it wrong, but now they're thinking, all right, that's what I need to chase.
Yeah, and ultimately that stuff's important. I'm not trying to degrade it. It's very important, and it tells you who you are.
Correct.
But ultimately, that stuff isn't going to change as much, or it's going to change organically for these youth athletes that are going to be getting stronger. And it's like, you're not competing against that. And we have it in pro ball. I mean, guys go out to the bullpen and they're chasing a metric, and then next thing you know, you look up and they're finished and they didn't throw a strike, or they're trying to hit the ball as hard as they can and everything's into the ground. Like, we don't care if you get the ball 110 if it's into the ground. You got to get it in the air. Like, so there's a little give and take there. So I think all the information and all the tracking technology, especially in some of these facilities now, it's available to these athletes. Use it. Try to understand what your baseline is, but you also need to have intent behind your actual drill work with that. So to me, that would be my advice to the youth. And
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but shouldn't that all be a byproduct of everything else you're doing, right? Okay, that will lead, like, hitting 90, 91, 92, and plus should be a byproduct of me working on my mechanics to get there, or working on my strength to get there.
Well, and that's the funny part, right? A lot of the times it is, like, it's mechanical adjustment that will see that surge. So finding consistency and repeatability, whether it's at the plate or on the mound or honestly in the field. Like, I think defense is something that's neglected a lot more nowadays. Like, and this is more on the coaches than it is a development plan, but it's like making sure that they're in the right position. But for you as an individual, like, if I know that I'm an outfielder and I have a pretty weak arm, well, what is your arm care program? What is your throwing program day in and day out? Are we working towards improving that? Like, player development is all about highlighting your strengths and building on those and maintaining them, and then kind of disguising the weaknesses or improving them. So for you, like, if I'm training for something that, I mean, there's no intent behind, then I'm not going to get the results. Like, if I go play in a travel tournament somewhere and I made 3 errors going to my backhand, well, why am I not working on my backhand? And the other way, maybe I start scooting that way to avoid the backhand, because I know that's a weakness, right? So like the double-edged sword.
Correct.
But same thing, like pitchers. Okay, yeah, I hit my velo record, but yeah, I walked 4 guys. Okay, well, that's something that we got to improve. Like, it's good that we hit that, but we got to get back on the mound with some intent to get back in the zone, because that's going to get me to the next level. Yeah,
well, that's why I love when I see anyone, that pitching, and their, fastball is like 91, 92, but they're crazy effective. And I'm like, it's not always, I guess, I know velo does matter. I'm not an idiot, but it's not all about that. And again, kids just get wrapped up into it. But this brings me to my next question. I mean, like, what are some of the things you are seeing at the youth level that needs to change? Like, are there any habits or what parents are doing, coaches or kids, that you think, like, hey, this has got to change or else it's going to result in something bad? Yeah, well, I'm not around the youth game as much currently, but just kind of from different conversations and just seeing it on social media, like, kids probably play a little bit too much right now, especially on the baseball side for arm care and whatnot. So I think that what we see when guys get the pro ball, they actually end up starting to throw less, because whether it's all their showcases or their travel tournaments, they're leading to college, and you get worried because now they're an investment, right? Like, okay, well, we gotta pare everybody down. So you'll see, like, starting pitching's down. You see it in the big leagues now. I mean, look at all these playoff games where it's a bullpen game. Like, big league starting pitching is a product of the last 10, 15 years of probably the amateur circuit, right? Like, and there's other reasons too, with the minor leagues being pared down and guys having to be pushed up faster. But like, the biggest challenge right now is overuse, and I think just being efficient in your time on the field, again, it comes back to practice, right? Like, what is the intent behind this? Is when you're going out on the field, yes, you want to get as many game reps as possible. That's going to make you better. But if you're injuring yourself or you're a worse version of yourself there, like, it's probably not as efficient.
So I think the overuse is certainly something, and then the specialization is the
Yeah.
other, right? Like just naturally, I think kids are playing less multi-sport. They're not multi-sport athletes anymore at a younger age.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that's avoidable unless you have a really special talent that, you know, they're rarer than probably the parents believe in, you know?
Yep.
Like ultimately the next Bryce Harper, who's 17, is going to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated, probably isn't, you know, waking up and coming in your kitchen for breakfast every morning.
No.
So.
No, definitely not. Now, and you bring up some really good points, but because I hate seeing these like 10, 11, 12-year-old kids, you know, they start, you know, in, you know, March or April or whatever, and they're going all throughout the summer, traveling every single weekend, who knows how many pitches they've thrown, and then they go into September, October, into November. I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like that's what really irks me, how there's not a macro perspective of somebody tracking them. And I know it's not an easy thing to do, you know, especially with parents. A lot of parents don't really know. They don't really care. They just want to see their kid out there having a good time. But like that just compounds over time.
Right. And I think that's something where for the parent, like maybe just kind of keeping track of that on your own. Like, all right, he's played 10 games in the last 7 days, like something ridiculous. Like maybe it's time to have a recovery day.
Yeah, and then they're pitching and then they're going to play shortstop.
Right.
I'm just like, what is going on?
So I think monitoring that on the parent side is important because
Yep.
your coaches and these different programs, they're going to continue to push the kid if they're healthy and they're able. They're 12 years old, right?
Exactly.
Like, let them go. But
Exactly.
yeah, I think monitoring that's important.
Yeah.
And you know, you see a byproduct of that when you get to college, and then particularly when you get to pro ball, we start paring it down a little bit, and the regiment is less, especially starting out. High school kids, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to be speaker at our summit, which we're really excited about. Once again, Saturday, November 22nd, here at VSP. What could people expect to hear you talk about? Because I know, you know, like I know people are definitely eager to hear you and your brother talk. You know, who doesn't like to hear about MLB stuff? But what are a couple of little nuggets that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I plan on talking about the different technologies that have came into the game over the last decade, pretty much working in it. And when I started, it was very bare bones. There was maybe a TrackMan here or there, but now it's not just that, it's the Hawkeye data. And with my experiences overseeing this for the Phillies and then also working with it with the Rockies, like how do we use it in pro ball? What is the practical use of this? How can you use it in your training? How can you educate yourself on this? And then also what are the pitfalls? Like we just talked about a few of them, but you know, it's a valuable tool, but it also needs to be used correctly. And the best advice would be, again, learning yourself as a player and the parent also learning who the player is and being honest with themselves and then kind of sculpting a plan. Like, okay, how can we leverage this technology that we have in this facility, or how can we leverage our practice plans or our drill work towards becoming a better version of me? So ultimately that's what I want to talk about, and I would be happy to, you know, take questions from any parents or players and hopefully help with the education piece as well.
Yeah, no, I know I'm looking forward to it, but I've taken up a little bit of your time. So I'm going to ask you a question.
All right.
Aaron Judge versus Cal. Who's your MVP?
I mean, obviously it's a toss-up.
I know you're biased, but yeah.
No, I mean, I would say it was Judge this year.
Okay.
Just ultimately what he did at the plate is stuff that hadn't been done in 100 years. And while I know what Raleigh did as a switch hitter behind the plate is incredible, you can't go wrong. But I would give the slight edge to Judge. Okay. You know, if Raleigh won the Platinum Glove again like he did last year, then you got to give him a little bump. But slight edge to Judge.
Okay. I know some people may disagree with you, you know, some catchers. But no, I agree. I mean, I love my guy Aaron. But so we're excited to have Connor with us at the Baseball Performance Summit once again, Saturday, November 22nd. You can find him there. We're going to have a lot of Q&As so people get an opportunity to just ask questions, you know, about what he does, and I know I'm looking forward to it. But I appreciate you coming on, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.